The holidays have begun in Texas as playoff football has started. Hello, everybody. Terry Bennett here on the H&S Septic Services Brock Football Show, the playoff football show. As the Brock Eagles will take on Fort Worth Dunbar tonight, 7:30, Burleson Stadium. And the first round of the 2025 playoffs as Brock finishes off their season 10-0. And this is going to be a really interesting region. We talked about it on Sideline to Sideline. Check that show out each and every week on YouTube at L4 Media Company or on our podcast page, S2S Grant and Terry.com, or on all podcast platforms. Those are the audio only. This is a really balanced region. But there's a reason why you wanted to win the district, because Brock has not an easy path, an easier path to the final than Graham, who is the second place team, because they're going to have to deal with Midland Greenwood and Eagle Mountain and Lubbock Liberty. People need to start looking at Lubbock Liberty, year two school, just like Eagle Mountain. They started slow last year. Liberty was really bad last year. I think they were 2-8, but they have turned it around this year as they've gotten experience. The talent was there. It was a bunch of freshmen and sophomores playing. And the Patriots are 9-1. While Brock will have to deal with Estacado and maybe Glen Rose or Mineral Wells, and then Seminole, one of those three. Don't let Glen Rose's record fool you, 5-5. They have scored a ton of points against some really good teams. They played a very tough non-district game. They had a 1-point loss to Robinson in the playoffs. They had a 5-point loss to Alvarado, who's not only in the playoffs, but a top 10 team in 4A Division I, and a team that many people think might win that region or at least compete for that region. So don't look at their record. And of course, Mineral Wells beat up all year long. They're finally getting healthy. And all of a sudden now they are playing their best football after what they did to Burke Burnett last week in what was basically already a playoff game, because the winner of that game went to the playoffs and the loser was home. And so technically Mineral Wells is in week 2 of their playoffs. We want to thank our sponsor, that's H&S Septic. You can find them online at hssepticservicetx.com. You can also give them a call, 682-214-6037. Mike will take care of you, whether you're in Parker County, Hood County, or even surrounding areas. You can call and check just to make sure. They have emergency service available, 1-year labor warranty, discounts available, and they also honor most manufacturer warranties as well. All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, it's the head coach of the Brock Eagles, Coach Billy Mathis, right here on the H&S Septic Services Brock Eagle Football Show. Here at L4 Media, we talk high school football, 4A, 3A, and 2A in Texas. We talk East Texas sports. We talk NFL, guy talk, movie and booze. We also talk wrestling and so much more. And you can see it all on our YouTube channel at L4 Media Company. Like and subscribe. Terry Bennett back here on the Brock Playoff Football Show, now joined by the head coach of the Eagles, Coach Billy Mathis. And, Coach, we won't talk too much on the game in of itself. It was a blowout, but you complete the undefeated regular season, beating Bridgeport 69-0. What were your thoughts on the game?
I was proud of the boys, to go out and, we knew Bridgeport hadn't had a very good season, but, once again, nobody was focused on that. They were focused on us, and we went out there and executed well. Heck, I think we only ran 29 offensive plays, the entire game. But, we got a lot of guys in, and, got a lot of playing time from a lot of the guys there on the team. So I was proud of them. Every win, they don't come easy, but every win we're going to enjoy. And, man, we're going to take the good and the bad, and we went in and watch film and fix the stuff that need to be fixed, and always trying to get better, always trying to make how can we be the best Brock Eagles that we can be.
And we didn't really get to talk last week, so let's kind of take 1 week back. You beat Graham 28-7, one of your sloppiest games of the year. So even though, as you said, Bridgeport, it wasn't as good as we thought they were going to be this year, I still was impressed how y'all refound that efficiency that y'all had all season against Bridgeport.
Heck yeah, the Graham game, it was a good game. Graham's a great football team, and we went out there, and you can't fumble the ball, you can't try to throw passes to guys that are covered. That doesn't work. And we went out there and had, I think, 5 turnovers, and we're still to go out there and win the football game. And that's what I told the guys. I said, hey, this is the deal. There's some games when the offense has carried the defense, and the Graham game, the defense carried the offense, through the second half. So that's why it's called a team. So you got to get out there and do that, and to be able to go out there and play a game that isn't very characteristic of us, and still win and go able to fix it on the, go in there Saturday and watch the film and fix it all. I was proud of the guys for that. Nobody got too low. It's just like every game. You go win a game, you can't, you can't get too high and you can't get too low. You got to stay right there in the middle, and you always got to keep working. And that's what I was so proud of the boys and how they did it. And, finished up that Graham game, and that solidified the district championship. And, after the game, talking to the guys, and, telling them, hey, man, congratulations for being district champs. And they weren't satisfied. They don't like a sloppy game. They want to go out and they want to be, they want to be perfect. And that's always what we're striving to do, try to go play that perfect game. We haven't done it yet, but we're still striving there to get there.
Well, let's be honest, as a coach, that Graham game probably came at the right time. A tough opponent. Y'all struggled at times. It's a teachable moment, but with the win, and I know as coaches, y'all all kind of want to get that weird game out of the way before the playoffs start.
Heck yeah, that's right. It's hard to go through a full 10-game season and not have, it's hard to go undefeated. It's even harder to go and have, the type of success that we were having without having one of those bad games. We started out the season against Decatur. Defense played okay, but the offense played great, and went against Graham. Defense played outstanding. The offense played okay. So, you go back and forth, and, that's what you got to do. And that's the best part about our boys and our team. And it's exciting. So, trying to get those weird bad games out of the way so that now that we roll into the playoffs, we're going to be hitting on all cylinders.
Well, you brought up the 10-0, and I know we're in a different era now where, 10-0 and undefeated seasons aren't maybe as big as they used to be, but I still know that almost every program has that as a goal. So what does it mean for you to be 10-0 this year in the regular season?
Just the excitement for the kids, because that's what they strive for, all the off season, all the work they put in, all the stuff that they talk about and do to get to that point. And, each week it's, hey, let's go 1-0, and you try to stack them on top of each other. So, we're excited about it and proud of the boys for reaching that first goal. But, just like you said, we go 10-0 and you forget about it and you move on to the next one, because that's what great teams have to do. You got to have a, short memory, get ready for the next team, because these games from here on out, there are 0 more promised after this Thursday. We got to take care of business to get the next one.
All right, you're taking on Fort Worth Dunbar. I know it's cliche, but again, they're one of those teams that you look at the record and then you look at the tape and you go, something doesn't match here, because Dunbar always has athleticism.
It's a very well coached team. They play with a lot of pride, man. Those guys, it's a good football team, and they're in they had a tough non-district and, had a tough district that they were in. So they're battle tested, and we've got to go out there and play our absolute best, to go win this football game. So, Coach Lawson and that crew over there, they're well coached, they're disciplined, they've got some giants up front on their offensive line, and they've got a lot of speed, that's a skill position.
What is the one thing you think y'all need to clean up to make it net to that next round, get out of the semifinals into the state championship game?
It's all the cliche things, right? Taking care of third downs. The biggest deal for us is to get out of our own way. No stupid penalties, no turning the ball over, no, none of those little things that well-disciplined teams do. We got to quit that stuff. We got to quit, false starting, or on defense when they go up there and they go on 2 or the double clap or whatever it is they do on 3rd and short or 4th and short and jump off sides. It's those type of little discipline things, those type of little mental errors that we've got to stop making mistakes on and just clean up that part. Now, I think the guys are playing well. It's not like we're, adding new defenses or adding any, new offense. We are what we are on both sides of the ball. And, we just got to go in and perfect those and stop making little mistakes. we do that, man, I think we got a good chance to play a long time this playoff run.
Oh, and this region, last year, I think we all felt it was going to be Brock and Graham in the region final, and it could very well happen again. But this region, in my opinion, especially on the top half of the bracket, just feels way more open this year.
Oh man, there's a lot of good teams up there. Greenwood, Liberty, Graham, and Eagle Mountain. Those guys are as good as any team in the state. So, it's going to be a tough region run up there. So, hopefully, we got Seminole. We got, of course, we got to get through Dunbar and Glen Rose and everybody down on our half too. So, Region 1, it's a Bears this year. And, there is no clear cut who the best is. And that's why we've got to go out and we got to keep improving. That's why we got to go out and take care of the little things. You take care of those little things, the big things will take care of themselves. So it's going to be a fun ride through this playoff through Region 1.
As always, I want to thank Coach Mathis for joining us here on the Brock Eagle Football Show. If you'd like to be a playoff sponsor of this show, just reach out to me, Terry at S2SSport.com. That's S2SSport.com. Or you can text or call me 469-605-3658. And I'll tell you how you can be a part of this. And this will also, whether Brock makes it or not, if you sponsor the part of the playoff coaches show, you will also be part of our state championship weekend, or week, I should say, where we do big pregame shows for every 4A, 3A, and 2A game. And then we do live watching parties for those games as well. So you'd be a part of that as well. So reach out to me, and we're all going to assume Brock's going to be playing for a while. Though, again, there's some potholes ahead. That Lubbock Estacado team, man, they are so up and down. They can be so athletic. You're going to, if that's who you end up playing, you're going to look at them when you see warm up and go, wow, what have we gotten ourselves into? And just it's consistency with them. And I think Brock, again, in this region has the easier, not easy, easier path to get to the region finals. But, hey, a lot of football left. It's the holidays, man. Everything, my favorite time of year. You've had Halloween, now playoff football, Thanksgiving, Christmas, all rolled into one just crazy month of football and holidays and stuff, and it's going to be a blast. All right, that's going to do it. Be safe in your travels, and let's meet back here next week on the H&S Septic Services Brock Eagle Playoff Show on L4 Media.